Imagine coming home after a short trip, only to find out your house has been sold, without your knowledge. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to John. While he was away for just 3 weeks, HOA Karen took it upon herself to declare his house abandoned and sold it to new buyers. The catch? John wasn't even part of an HOA. But Karen didn't know one crucial detail. John had a lawyer who lived for taking down HOA fraudsters. This wasn't just a fight for his home. This was about justice. And Karen? She was about to lose everything. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. John pulled into his driveway and nearly slammed the brakes when he saw the bright red sold sign planted in his front yard. His heart skipped a beat. Confused, he glanced at the house, expecting to see a prank or a mistake. Instead, he saw strangers carrying boxes inside his home. For a moment, he thought maybe he had pulled into the wrong driveway. He double-checked the address. No, this was his house. The same porch swing, the same ridiculous garden gnome his wife bought on sale, the same house he had lived in for years. A man in cargo shorts and a woman in yoga pants stood by the moving truck, directing movers. They looked settled, happy, like they had just found their dream home. John stepped out of his car, his voice shaking with disbelief. "Excuse me, what the hell is going on here?" The couple turned to look at him, the man raising an eyebrow. Who are you?" John's stomach clenched. "I live here. This is my house." The woman laughed nervously, clutching a folder of papers. "No, it's our house. We just bought it from the HOA." John blinked. "The HOA?" His voice rose in pure boiling confusion. "I'm not even in an HOA." The man sighed, flipping through the documents. "Look, I don't know what's going on, but we legally bought this place. Here's the deed transfer." He held up a paper with his address. But instead of his name, there were 2 strangers listed as the new owners. John's hands clenched into fists. His pulse pounded in his ears. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a nightmare. Then came the smug, nasal voice that made his blood run cold. "Oh, you're back. Didn't think you returned so soon." John turned to see a woman in her 50s with a blonde bob and a sweater tied around her shoulders like some suburban warlord. She stood on the sidewalk smirking. Karen, the neighborhood busybody, the self-proclaimed president of an HOA that didn't actually exist. John narrowed his eyes. "Karen, what did you do?" She scoffed, folding her arms. "We, the Homeowners Association, declared your property abandoned after your extended absence. You can't just leave a house empty like that. We have rules." John's blood boiled. He had been gone for 3 weeks on a work trip. Not months, not years. 3 weeks. Karen continued, all faux sympathy. "Since it was considered abandoned, we exercised our right to claim it and sell it to a responsible new owner. You weren't maintaining the property. The grass got a little long. The mailbox was overflowing. Clear signs of neglect." John's jaw dropped. "Are you out of your damn mind? You sold my house because my grass was long." Karen gave a tight, satisfied smile. "It's nothing personal. It's about maintaining neighborhood standards." John turned to the new homeowners, desperate. "You guys seriously thought this was legit?" The man hesitated, glancing between the paperwork and John. "We were told it was a foreclosure under HOA rules. Everything checked out legally." John let out a humorless laugh. "Oh, I guarantee you it didn't." But before he could say anything else, the police showed up. How'd up? Karen, of course, had called them. "There's a trespasser on private property," she said in a sing-song voice. John saw red. He was standing on his driveway arguing about his house, and now the cops were looking at him like he was the problem. One officer stepped forward, resting a hand on his belt. "Sir, I need you to calm down." John's voice was shaking from sheer outrage. "Calm down? These lunatics just stole my house." The officer sighed, flipping to the papers handed to him by the new homeowners. "This looks like a civil matter. If you have a problem, you'll need to take it to court." John's stomach twisted. He had read stories like this before. Homeowners losing their property through fraudulent HOAs, loopholes, and legal red tape. But he never imagined it could actually happen to him. Karen smirked. "I suggest you find somewhere else to stay, John. These lovely people actually pay their HOA dues. That was it. That was the moment something in John snapped. He wasn't just going to fight this. He was going to burn her entire fake HOA empire to the ground. He pulled out his phone and made one call. "Mike," he said, voice tight, "I need you to bury someone in legal hell." Mike's laughter rumbled through the phone. "Oh, someone finally pissed you off enough to call me." John stared at Karen, whose smugness faltered for the first time. "Oh, yeah," John said, voice deadly calm. "And I want to ruin them." Karen's expression flickered. She had no idea who Mike was, but she was about to find out, because Mike wasn't just a lawyer. He was a litigation monster who ate HOA fraudsters for breakfast. And Karen? She was already choking. The next morning, John woke up on his best friend's couch, still fuming. He had barely slept, replaying every insane moment of the previous day in his head. His house, his own damn house, had been stolen out from under him, and the police had just shrugged and told him to take it to court. If there was any justice in the world, Karen and her ridiculous fake HOA should be the ones in handcuffs, not walking around acting like they own the entire neighborhood. Mike, his lawyer and longtime friend, had been way too excited when John explained the situation the night before. John had expected sympathy, maybe some outrage, but instead, Mike had grinned like someone had just handed him a winning lottery ticket. "You don't understand," he had said, practically vibrating with enthusiasm. "I love taking down fake HOAs. This is going to be fun." John wasn't sure what part of his life being turned upside down was supposed to be fun, but he knew one thing. Mike was the best damn lawyer he had ever met, and right now that was his only hope. By noon, they were sitting in Mike's office going over every detail. Mike leaned back in his chair, flipping through the paperwork Karen had filed. "So let me get this straight. You were gone for 3 weeks, and this lunatic decided your house was abandoned and sold it." John exhaled sharply. "Yep, because my grass got a little long." "That's a new one. Usually, these frauds at least pretend to have real legal backing. But this is amateur hour." He flipped to another page and burst out laughing. "Oh my God, look at this." She literally signed the sales contract herself as the president of the HOA. John frowned and Mike's grin widened. "And there is no official HOA. It doesn't exist. There's nothing in the county records, no formal association, nothing. Karen just made it up." John's jaw tightened. "So what does that mean?" Mike leaned forward. "It means she's screwed. And I mean royally screwed. This is fraud, wire fraud, real estate fraud, and I can probably argue for theft on a grand scale. Plus, if she collected money from other homeowners in the neighborhood under the guise of an HOA, that's embezzlement." John's rage simmered just under the surface. "So we can sue?" Mike grinned like a shark. "Oh, we're going to do a hell of a lot more than sue." Within hours, Mike had drafted a lawsuit so brutal, it could have been a medieval execution order. Fraud, property theft, illegal sale of real estate, misrepresentation. Karen was looking at enough charges to drown in legal fees alone. But that wasn't even the best part. Mike had also filed an injunction to freeze all transactions on the house, which meant that the new homeowners, they couldn't legally take possession. The house was still tied up in John's name. That evening, John and Mike drove back to the neighborhood. The moving truck was still parked outside, but the new homeowners were nowhere to be seen. Karen, however, was standing in the driveway laughing with a group of neighbors. John's anger burned hot. He had been planning to avoid a confrontation, but seeing her standing there acting like nothing had happened was the final straw. He strode right up to her, watching her expression shift from amusement to annoyance. "Oh, you again!" Karen crossed her arms. "I thought you would have moved on by now." John smirked. "Oh, I have. I moved on straight to a lawsuit." Karen blinked. "Excuse me?" Mike stepped forward, waving the thick legal document in front of her face. "Congratulations, Karen. You're being sued for fraud, theft, and about a dozen other things that are going to financially ruin you." Karen's smugness wavered. "You can't." "Oh, I can." Mike interrupted smoothly. "And I already did. In fact, I've also reported you to the County Fraud Department, Real Estate Commission, and oh yeah, the IRS. Because I have a feeling you haven't been paying taxes on all that illegal HOA money you've been collecting. Karen's face lost a little color. This is ridiculous. John folded his arms. Is it? Because the judge didn't seem to think. So when he froze the sale of my house. Those poor buyers you scammed? Yeah, they legally can't move in. The sale is invalid, and you just committed a major crime. Karen sputtered. You can't sue the HOA? We have rules. Mike actually laughed. You don't even have an HOA, Karen. You made it up. There's no board, no legal filings. Nothing. You just decided you were in charge and started scamming people. Karen opened her mouth, then shut it again. Her confidence had cracked, but she wasn't ready to crumble just yet. This is just misunderstanding, she tried, her voice a little higher now. I was just trying to protect property values. Mike shook his head. Yeah, tell that to the judge. Oh, wait. You'll have plenty of time to do that next week when you appear in court. Karen's eye twitched. She was starting to understand this wasn't just a mild inconvenience. She was in serious legal trouble. John smirked. Oh, and one more thing. Since you technically sold my house under false pretenses, I'm also suing for damages. Karen swallowed. Damages. Mike grinned. Oh, yeah. We're talking pain and suffering, loss of property use, and my personal favorite, emotional distress. Karen's face twisted. You can't do this. John laughed. Karen, I already did. She spun on her heel and marched away, but her usual smugness was gone. For the first time since this whole nightmare started, John felt like he had the upper hand. As they got back in the car, John exhaled deeply, tension leaving his body. God, that felt good. Mike chuckled. Oh, trust me. The best part hasn't even started yet. When we get to court, that's when she'll really regret messing with you. John nodded. He wasn't just fighting for his house. He was about to end Karen's entire fake empire. The day of the court hearing arrived faster than John expected. He sat outside the courtroom with Mike, running a hand through his hair as the reality of the situation settled in. The last few days had been a whirlwind of legal filings, frozen transactions, and Karen trying and failing to manipulate her way out of the mess she had created. She had sent passive-aggressive emails, attempted to talk the new homeowners into working things out, and even called in some of her fake HOA supporters to vouch for her. None of it worked. The law was on John's side, and now it was time to prove it. When the bailiff finally called him in, John stood tall, his heart pounding as he walked into the courtroom. Karen was already seated at the defendant's table, looking more rattled than usual. The confidence, the smug superiority, was gone. In its place was a woman who knew she was in deep trouble, but was still grasping at any last shred of control. The judge, an older man with a stern face and a non-nonsense attitude, looked over the case file for a long moment before adjusting his glasses. Let me get this straight, he said, glancing at Karen. You, as president of a homeowners association, sold this man's house because you believed it was abandoned? Karen cleared her throat and lifted her chin. Yes, Your Honor. As per HOA guidelines, abandoned properties are subject to recovery and resale to maintain neighborhood standards. The judge flipped a page in the file. According to the county records, there is no registered homeowners association in this neighborhood. Karen's lips pressed into a thin line. That's a clerical error. Mike let out a quiet chuckle, and John had to fight the urge to smile. The judge was already unimpressed. This was going to be easier than expected. The judge turned his sharp gaze back to Karen. You were the sole person responsible for overseeing this transaction? Karen nodded. Yes, as the acting president of the HOA. Mike stood up. Your Honor, let's be clear about something. She was not acting as the president of anything. This HOA does not exist in any legal capacity. There was never a vote, no registration, no tax filings, no board. She just took it upon herself to invent authority, and then used that to commit fraud. Karen scoffed. That's not true. Mike smirked. Then please provide the court with the official HOA documentation. Karen hesitated. I don't have it with me at the moment. The judge frowned. Do you have it at all? Silence. Mike folded his arms. Interesting, because according to county records, She filed false paperwork declaring herself the HOA president 3 days after selling the plaintiff's home. Meaning, Your Honor, she committed real estate fraud by operating under false pretenses. John had never seen someone squirm so hard in their seat. The judge exhaled slowly and turned to Karen. Miss Langley, do you have an actual legal defense here? Because so far, all I'm seeing is fraudulent activity, a completely fabricated organization, and one of the most blatant misuses of property law I've ever seen. Karen's face flushed red. Your Honor, I was only trying to protect the neighborhood. There are rules. The judge held up a hand. There are no rules because there is no homeowners association. You acted on personal authority that you did not have, forged legal documents, and unlawfully transferred property that was never yours to begin with. He turned to Mike, requesting full damages. Mike nodded. Absolutely. Property loss, damages, emotional distress, legal fees. And because she's been collecting legal HOA dues from multiple residents for years, we're also filing a class action lawsuit. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. John could almost hear the panic setting in. The judge leaned forward. And just how many residents have been paying into this non-existent HOA? Mike slid a file across the table. According to these bank statements, dozens. She's been running a full-fledged scam for years. The courtroom was silent for a long moment. Then the judge sighed. Miss Langley, do you have anything to say for yourself before I make my ruling? Karen swallowed hard. I was only trying to help. The judge looked completely unimpressed. Help yourself, maybe. My ruling is as follows. The sale of the plaintiff's home is null and void. The property legally belongs to Mr. Callahan. Additionally, Miss Langley is ordered to pay all associated legal fees and return every dime she has ever collected from the residents under false HOA pretenses. Lastly, she will be referred to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges related to this matter. Deed of fraud in real estate. Misrepresentation. Karen's entire body sagged. The smugness, the superiority, it all crumbled. She had lost. John let out a breath he hadn't realized he had been holding. It was over. By the time they left the courtroom, the news had already spread. Other scammed homeowners were furious, and Karen's house, which was legally still hers for now, had a growing crowd of angry neighbors outside demanding their money back. Mike grinned as they walked toward the parking lot. That was almost too easy. John smirked. I have a feeling Karen's going to have a really bad week. Mike chuckled. Try the rest of her life. A few weeks later, John was finally back in his house. Everything had been returned to normal. Well, almost everything. Karen had disappeared from the neighborhood, forced to sell her own home to cover her debt. The IRS was looking into her finances, and from what John heard, they weren't happy. The new homeowners had thankfully gotten their money back from the shady transaction and had moved on, probably regretting ever dealing with Karen in the first place. Karen thought she could get away with it. She thought her fake HOA rules would protect her, but in the end, her arrogance led to her downfall. Not only did John reclaim his home, but Karen was forced to pay back every penny she scammed from the neighborhood. And the cherry on top, John might just end up buying her house at auction. HOA fraud exposed. Justice served. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because this isn't the last time a Karen learns a hard lesson.